Now, usually when I put my character inside Substance Painter, the first thing that I do is I like to I like to paint the eyebrows, eyelashes, if the character has beard, any facial hair, I add it on there. I paint it right on there, just kind of like what we did in Blender to make sure that our likeness is there. So as I'm painting here in Substance Painter, I like to do the same thing. As a placeholder, I do like to paint the hair. And as I mentioned before, that we are going to be using hair cards. So since this is going to be for games, so we're going to be doing the hair cards later, but we still want to have some visuals on how the hair look like. And so we need to do that here also in Substance Painter. Now by default, Substance Painter is going to have on the layers section here, you're going to have your layer 1 by default. And we don't really need that. When I first started out using Substance Painter, I like to create a bunch of layers, and you create a layer by clicking on this paint icon there. I just like to create a layer and then paint on it right away. Make sure when you are painting, right, you are actually on your correct texture set. So let's say I'm in the incorrect texture set. Let's say I'm on my Kringle instead of the head and arms, and then I'm on my layer 1 here, right? And if I go ahead and change the color here, maybe the base color, I want it to be red, I want to paint this red, and if I just start painting, you see there's nothing happening because I am actually painting on the incorrect texture set. So make sure that whenever you're painting, you are on the right texture set, and the texture set wherever you want to paint on. So I know I'm gonna paint on the head, so make sure that you select the texture set that is related to that head. So right now I'm on my head arms, and it also has a layer 1, so now if I start painting, I could see what's happening there. And doing it this way, when you just create a layer and then just start painting on that layer is totally not the right way to paint in Substance Painter, but that's how I used to do it when I was just a beginner. And so we live and learn. That's if you are working in the industry, you have to make sure you're working non-destructively as much as possible. So I'm gonna undo this, and we could just delete the layer 1 right there. We could just delete that. We rarely gonna be using the layer here. We are going to use a fill layer. So a fill layer is a non-destructive way to work. So let's go ahead and click on that bucket. So the fill layer is this right here. We're going to be using this a lot. So if you click on that and make sure that you're on the texture set that you want to work on, all right? So I'm going to click on this, and then it creates a fill layer for us. So what that does, it fills up the mesh with the color that you want. So once you have your fill layer there, you could go to your properties, and then if you scroll down, you're gonna see base color. So right now, the color of my character is this color right here, light gray. So let's say I want to change that. I click here and I change it to red. So now he's red. Let's say I want to make him yellow. And like I said before, we want to make our paint for our eyebrows, which is going to be more of a black. So I'm going to set this to black. Doesn't have to be pure black. It could be maybe dark, very dark gray if you want. Okay, something like that. And of course, we don't want the entire thing to be that color. So this is where we have to work non-destructively and create a mask. So we go to our fill layer again, and you just go ahead and right click and add black mask. So the black mask will hide the color. If you add a white mask, if I go and right click here and add a white mask, it's gonna reveal the color, right? So we have to actually make sure it's a black mask. So add black mask. All right, so we don't see anything, right? Now, if we want to reveal, we want to show our color, right? We could go ahead and right click on the mask that we made, and we could add a paint. All right, now if we go to our paintbrush here on the left side, and you could bring down the brush size right here. There's the size of the brush there. You could also click on your brackets on your keyboard to bring up the brush size, bring down the brush size on your keyboard, the brackets. So remember, white will allow us to reveal the color. So let's say I'm on my paint right now, and then if I just go and start painting here, you see how the black part is being revealed. Now if I press X on my keyboard, X as an X-ray, and now the brush color is black, and black hides the color. And yeah, so let's say I want to go ahead and press X again, and now I'm on my white color, and if let's say I just want to do like a happy face right there. So this is a non-destructive way to work. And let's say if I want to go back and just change the color of this, I could go back to my fill, my main fill color here. And if I go ahead and click on that, and then I could go to my properties again and go to my base color here and change the base color. So if I go ahead and change this to red, right? You see how I could change it easily, right? All right, and yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm going to set it to just black, right? Dark gray, really dark gray, almost black. So we're doing eyebrows. And then we can go back to our, click on your fill, on your mask layer, okay? Once you click on your mask layer, you should see that there's a paint. So now you should have 1 and 2 things that you should be looking at. And whenever you click on this here on the second square here, that's when you're going to see the paint that you have created here, in which you could paint and show and reveal the fill color. So if I go over here on the paint, press X, so I'm on my black color, and I'm going to go ahead and erase this. I'm going to go ahead and hide this. Alright, so now, that being said, we could go back to our white color, and we could go ahead and start painting our eyebrows. So look at your reference and go ahead and turn on. Another thing is you have to turn on your symmetry. So this will make it easier for us. So right here is the icon for the symmetry. I'm going to turn that on. If you have made your character in the 0, axis, then you should have a perfect symmetry. If you don't, then you could either fix your stuff in Blender or then just don't do symmetry. But yeah, definitely try to do the symmetry. And if I start painting, you see it's way too dark. Whenever I'm painting, kind of like in Blender, I like to start out with a very low opacity. So to adjust the opacity, you're going to see stroke opacity here, and I like to set it to a very low value, maybe 15. And let me see how that looks like. Oh yeah, so something like that. I like to start out with that very low opacity. And yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and just start painting. Kind of like the basic shape of the eyebrows, of his eyebrows. So I like to really paint really slow, and then later on I could darken it if I need to. And remember, if you kind of made a mistake, you could press X on your keyboard to set your brush to black, and then you could kind of hide that paint again if you need to. You could press X to go back to white and show your color paint. Alright, and I'm going to go and set the opacity to a stronger value, 32. And I'm going to erase a little bit of this here. Remember to bring up or bring down your brush size. You could do it through here, or you could work on your brackets on your keyboard. Press your brackets there. And I'm going to bring down my opacity again. Alright, something like that. Okay, and another thing is I want to go to my eyes and add I want to see how the eyes look like. So I want to add the pupils. Yeah, I want to add the pupils there, the iris. So I'm going to go to my eyeball. So I'm going to make sure I know that which texture set I want to paint on. So I'm going to select the eyeball texture set, and by default it has a layer 1 also. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that and create a fill layer. And we could get in the habit of naming this. I'm going to go ahead and double click on it, and I'm going to call it eye paint. And then we could go ahead and right click and add a black mask. And then if we want to paint on it, we have to go ahead and right click and add a paint. Where's the paint? Right here. Alright, and by default, whenever you create a new fill layer, it's going to be light gray. And of course, his His iris is not light gray, so I'm going to go click here, and I'm going to change the base color here to, I think it has a dark brown eye, so I'm going to go ahead and to dark brown, almost black, but like something like that. And I'm going to go and click on the second square so I could access my paint, and click on the paint. And then I'm going to go ahead and crank up my stroke opacity a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and add his iris. There you go. And look from far away. See how that looks like. Once you are adding these elements, and once you're painting your eyes and your eyebrows, and you kind of see that the likeness is not really there, you could always adjust your mesh, and you could always rebake your normal map. So nothing is set in stone. See, that's the point of doing this, so we could see if we need to make some adjustment to our mesh. Alright, so something like that. So it looks like I gave him that really lazy look, like he's trying to look sexy. Yeah, which is fine. Redo, I think, redo add stroke. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to my head arms texture set because I want to paint on the face. And I already have a fill layer that I've created before, and I'm going to name that. I'm going to name it Face Paint. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead, go to my mask layer so I can access my paint here. And then I'm going to go make sure I'm on my, oops, zoom in. I'm going to make sure that I am on my white color. All right, so right now it's at 1. If I press X on my keyboard, it's going to set to 0. 0 will allow us to hide the color. Press X is set it to 1, the grayscale. 1 will allow us to reveal the color. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and just add the eyelashes. Want to see how that he looks like with the eyelashes here. He has a very thick eyelashes, very curly. We're going to be adding Unreal's groom hair here later on. But yeah, it's good to kind of add what we have for now. I'm going to increase my opacity. Go. So yeah, just adding these. And bring down the opacity, might be a little too much. So yeah, usually for everyone, the upper eyelashes is going to be thicker and a lot more noticeable than the lower lashes. So the lower lashes is very subtle, so we want to convey that there. And you want to go ahead and also add the beard and the goatee, right? And we don't have to use just the default brush. So the default brush that we're using right now, if you guys look over here, there are different icons here. If you hover your mouse, it should tell you what they are. So right now this one is okay. Yeah, right now it's thinking, but this here is the regular materials. This is the smart materials. This is the mask. I believe this is where they have the the masking materials here. And this one you have filters, and this one you have the brushes, and this one you have your alphas. So there's default alphas that you could use from Substance Painter, and then here you have the textures. So we have plugged in our normal map textures. Remember, our normal map for our head and our outfit. You're gonna find it here in this icon right here. If you click on this, right, and then you could type in the name of your normal map. So if I type in MB underscore, so now it shows the normal maps that I have imported in. So I'm just gonna go X that out. So it's showing all the texture. And then I could go and click on this one. This one's environment. These are the HDR environment. But yeah, if you hover your mouse, it'll show you what they are. Sometimes it doesn't show, but it depends if your computer is thinking right now. But what we need to do is we need to go to our brushes here. On the brushes, there are different types of brushes we could use. There's the dirt brush that we need. So if we want to go ahead and paint the beard and we want him to have a little curly, a little bit frizzy type of hair that we're painting, we could use the dirt brush. So we could go ahead and type in dirt here on the search. And then we could use the dirt one, is fine. And then we could bring down the brush size. And then we could reveal the color with our grayscale to 1. You could go ahead and on our paint here, make sure you're on paint. Some students, they forget that they're not on paint, that some students, they accidentally paint on the actual fill on the main thumbnail here. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you're actually on the paint. Okay, so now we can go ahead and just start painting the beard. As you can see here, when I'm painting the beard with the dirt brush, it looks curly, right? It gives that effect that it has that nappy hair thing. All right, and press X, and I think I'm gonna want to remove some parts of this. Press X again, and you're just gonna go ahead and add more of these here. And then add some. I do want him to look rough, so I'm gonna add some hair all over the face here. Okay, some hair around here. And around down there. And here. There you go. Alright, and I think I could add a little bit more here. A little bit here. And of course, I think I want to go ahead and hold shift and drag so I could see more of the hair around this area. So I'm painting on the side. So I could go ahead and start painting the area here for the hair on the side. You could bring down your brush size. Okay. You are never going to stay with just white or black. You're gonna constantly press X on your keyboard. And then, yeah. As I'm doing the hairline, I like to use a smaller brush size as I'm doing this. If you have too much of a big brush size, it's just gonna look splattered and it's gonna look fake. So bring down your brush size around this part here where you're doing the area for the hairline. Okay. And yeah, slowly add a little bit more here. Okay, and then I could go ahead and slowly crank up my brush size. And start painting a bit more around this area. Bring down my stroke opacity. Alright, bring down my stroke opacity. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and crank up my stroke. I think like at the back we could definitely use a more intense stroke. Yeah, and yeah, just gonna go and as you start to do the back part, you could crank up the stroke intensity. Very nice. Okay, also here. We're gonna end up leaving the paint that we have on the head. We're gonna most likely end up leaving that here because this will work. Sometimes we could use a lower amount of poly count when we're doing the hair cards, and then some parts of the scalp might show and we don't want a part of the scalp to show. So having a black paint here later will definitely help later on when it's time for us to do the hair. So yeah, we might leave this here, this paint right here. And I think I could kind of shave this out right here. Clear that out slightly so it has a little nice fade. And let's see here. I think for the eyes, I could go back to my eyeball here. Go back to my paint. And then I'm gonna go back to my regular draw brush. A regular brush. I'm gonna go turn off the dirt. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I don't have typed in dirt there. I'm going to go to my basic soft brush and bring down my brush size. And I'm going to set this right back to white. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint a little bit of this. I'm going to turn down the opacity. Yeah, and just paint a little bit more here. There you go. Alright, so maybe what else we could do here? Could go ahead and go back to my eyelashes. I think I'm gonna go back to my head arms, go to my paint here, and gonna enhance the eyelashes here. So around the side, definitely. Also on the side, we have more eyelashes working. A little longer. Damn, he looked like he has some mascara on. Very nice. Okay, so I could go ahead and turn off my symmetry. Could hold the shift key and drag. See what I'm working with. And I think I could go back to my dirt brush. I'm gonna type in dirt 1. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my symmetry again. And yeah, I think we gotta make sure that this is a little bit thicker. So add a little bit more thickness here. There you go. Maybe you can add a little bit more messiness around here. Okay, cool. Turn off the symmetry. So we want to kind of see how it looks when you render. We could go to our mode and rendering or press F10 on your keyboard. You could also see the icon here. You're going to be able to see the icon right here. You could also click on that camera icon to render. I'm going to go hold shift and just drag. Cool. So what is this? If I go to my panorama, yeah, if I go here to my display settings, right now I'm in Studio 06. And let's set to here. Bus Garage is looking pretty real. Looking pretty real there. And yeah, you could guys kind of mess around with that, but I think I'm gonna stick to Studio 6 for now. Okay, but yeah, it's good to just kind of mess around with it, see what you're working with. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to my paint here. I'm gonna go with Shift. Wait, did I choose the right one? I want to make sure I chose the right. Oops, I chose Studio White Soft. I think mine previously was Studio 6, right? So I prefer Studio 06 here. I think the other one looked better when it's rendered, but it's okay. I want to stick to this one because I could see clearly the actual color of the character. So it doesn't have to be this at the end, but yeah, what's good about Substance Painter? You're able to mess around with different types of HDRI settings there. But yeah, this is good for now. And in the next video, we are going to begin painting our skin color.